All right. You're staring at listings again. Your rent just went up by a lot. Your neighbor just bought something that looks way worse than your current place. And TikTok keeps serving you videos saying this is your last chance to buy before prices explode. So now you're stuck wondering, should you finally buy a house in 2025? On one hand, you're tired of feeling like your paycheck disappears into someone else's mortgage. On the other hand, you're seeing headlines like housing bubble, interest rates still high, and wait until 2026. So which is it? Is now a smart time to buy, or a financial faceplant waiting to happen? Because here's the truth, this decision, it's huge. Buying at the wrong time, in the wrong way, with the wrong plan, that can wreck your finances for years. But when done right, buying in 2025 could be one of the best moves you ever make. Let's break down exactly what's going on in the market, how it affects you personally, and how to tell whether buying right now makes sense or if you should wait it out a little longer. No hype, no fear-mongering, just straight talk, like a friend who's been through it and wants you to win. Let's start with the elephant in the room. Why is this question such a big deal in 2025? Because the market right now is confusing, like really confusing. Mortgage rates are still high, but they're not as terrifying as they were last year. Inventory is climbing in some areas, dropping in others. And price drops? Well, they're happening, but not evenly. It's like watching a seesaw while standing on a trampoline. One friend says prices are crashing. Another just lost out on a house with 15 offers. And meanwhile, you're caught in the middle trying to figure out if you should jump in before it gets worse or wait and risk missing the boat. So let's make this easier by laying out both sides. Let's talk about what's working in buyers' favor right now and what's still dangerous, because once you understand both, you'll be in a way better position to decide. And trust me, the market doesn't care how ready you feel, but your wallet will. First, the good news. Let's talk about why buying in 2025 might actually be a great move for some people. For starters, while rates aren't exactly low, they've stopped spiking every other week. In 2023 and even parts of 2024, buyers were getting whiplash, locking in at 6.8, then seeing rates shoot up to 7.3 before their inspection even finished. Now, we've got a little more stability. Some buyers are locking in under 7%, and more importantly, they're not competing with a stampede of desperate offers. That changes the whole game. Picture this. You go to see a house in 2022. There are 20 cars parked outside. The kitchen is ugly. The basement smells like feet. But there are already 8 offers, and yours better come with a love letter and your firstborn child. Now, that same house in 2025 might sit on the market for 2 weeks. The seller might be open to negotiations. You might actually get an inspection. Imagine that. That kind of breathing room makes a huge difference, especially if you're a first-time buyer trying to keep your blood pressure under control. And then there's the rent situation. If you're in a city where rent's been climbing every year with no signs of stopping, buying could finally give you some stability. You go from asking your landlord how much your rent's going up next year to paying the same mortgage month after month, knowing exactly what's coming out of your bank account. That predictability is underrated. It lets you plan, save, and build equity instead of constantly reacting to someone else's decisions. And that brings us to the big picture, the reason a lot of people buy even in tough markets. Long term, real estate still builds wealth. It's not about timing the market perfectly. It's about time in the market. If you're buying a home to live in, not flip, not Airbnb, not turn into your crypto-themed meditation retreat, then you're making a move for the next 10 years, not the next 10 months. And over that time, even with bumps and dips, owning usually beats renting. But that's only true if you buy smart. And in 2025, buying smart takes more than just getting pre-approved and walking into an open house. Because while there are pros to buying this year, there are some major traps too. And this next part, it's where most people mess up. Let's talk about the risks and why buying in 2025 could totally backfire if you're not ready. First, prices. Yes, they've cooled in some places, but in others, they're still ridiculously high. Sellers haven't all adjusted to reality. You'll still see houses listed at peak 2022 prices, like nothing ever happened. And unless you're working with a savvy agent who can spot the overpriced listings and help you negotiate hard, you might end up overpaying big time. Here's a scenario. You walk into a house that looks cute, but the seller bought it in 2021, put in a new sink, and now wants to flip it for 100 grand more. You fall in love with the hardwood floors and the little reading nook, but the roof is 20 years old, the furnace is making noises, and oh yeah, it's 20% over market value. Without doing your homework, you'd never know. And boom, you're stuck. Then there's the rate issue. Even if they're slightly lower now, we're still in a high rate environment. That affects how much house you can afford and how much you'll pay over time. Let's say your budget is $2,500 a month. In 2021, that might have gotten you a $470,000 house. Today, that same monthly payment might only get you $370,000. And if you try to stretch beyond that, you could be house poor living in a nice place, but with zero money left for emergencies, repairs, or even takeout. That's not freedom, that's a trap. And here's the sneaky part, it's not just about numbers, it's about emotions. Because buying a house is emotional. You walk into a place that smells like cinnamon. The light hits the kitchen just right, and suddenly you're mentally hosting Thanksgiving and planting tomatoes in the backyard. Meanwhile, your brain, it's on vacation. You forget to check the inspection report. You ignore the weird slant in the basement. You overlook the part where the house is 20 minutes farther from work than you wanted. That's how good people make bad decisions. Especially in a market like 2025, where uncertainty is high and good deals are harder to spot, buying based on vibes is risky. You don't want to fall in love with a house that wrecks your budget. You want to fall in love with a house that fits your life and your finances even when interest rates aren't on your side. Which brings us to this crucial point. Buying a house doesn't start with the house. It starts with your numbers. And not just the price tag or the mortgage. We're talking the full picture. Because when you own a home, surprise costs are a guarantee, not a maybe. The water heater dies. The gutters clog. You find mold behind the washing machine. You can't just call the landlord anymore. You are the landlord. So here's what most people skip, and it costs them. Before you even look at homes, you need to understand your debt-to-income ratio, your credit score, how much you can actually spend monthly without sweating every bill, how much cash you'll have left after closing costs and moving expenses. If those numbers are tight, like really tight, waiting a few months to build savings could mean the difference between buying smart and buying stressed. Because buying a house just to own one, if you're not financially ready, is like running a marathon with one shoe, painful and unnecessary. And here's another mistake buyers make in 2025, ignoring local reality. You can't go off national headline. Just because the market's cooling in Phoenix doesn't mean it's doing the same in Pittsburgh. Just because your cousin in Austin got a $20,000 price cut doesn't mean your seller in Atlanta is going to budge 1 inch. Real estate is local, hyper-local. So if you're only listening to big YouTubers or viral tweets, you're not getting the full picture. Instead, pull up your city's data. Look at days on market, price trends by zip code, average list versus sold prices, inventory compared to last year. Then, and this is key, go see houses. Even if you're not ready to buy this month, walk through open houses. Talk to agents even just casually. You'll start to recognize patterns. Like, oh wow, everything under 400,000 is going fast, but the overpriced stuff is sitting. Or, this neighborhood keeps getting price cuts. Maybe that's a soft spot. When you understand your local market, you can spot opportunities and avoid traps. And now, here's the big question I want you to ask yourself before buying anything in 2025. If prices drop 10% after you buy, would you still feel good about your decision? If the answer is no, you might not be ready yet. Because even though the market might go up or sideways, or even down short term, you need to feel solid either way. Remember, you're not buying a stock. You're buying a home. It's a place to live, a long-term investment, not a get-rich-quick move. So if you're financially stable, emotionally prepared, and willing to ride out a little volatility, go for it. But if you're already feeling nervous, and the only thing pushing you forward is fear of missing out, slow down. The market will still be there next month, and next year, and the year after that. This isn't about catching a wave. It's about not wiping out. So let's wrap it up. Should you buy a house in 2025? That depends on three things. 1. Your personal finances. Are you financially ready with a stable job, an emergency fund, and a realistic idea of your budget, including all the hidden costs of homeownership? 2. Your goals and timeline. Are you buying a place to live for at least 7 to 10 years? Or are you hoping to sell in 2 years and make a quick profit? Long-term equals less risk. Short-term equals play with caution. 3. Your local market knowledge. Do you understand what's happening in your area? Have you done your homework, watched prices, toured homes, and looked at the data? Because when you really know your market and your numbers and your why, that's when you make smart decisions. That's how you avoid the stress. And that's how you turn 2025 into the year you finally stopped renting, made a smart move, and started building long-term wealth without the regrets. And hey, if this helped you feel a little more prepared to navigate this crazy market, drop a comment and let me know what part hit home for you. And definitely stick around, because in the next video we're breaking down how much house can I afford in 2025. We'll look at real numbers, hidden costs, and the simple method to figure out your true buying power without getting in over your head. It's a game changer, especially if you're serious about buying this year. See you there.